Hey folks, we are here at a cafe in lovely Kenny Hills. And today we're going to talk about money. I woke up with this idea to tell you about money and what it is. So what is money? Money is a product. And just like any product, there are buyers, sellers, distributors, and factories. So if you understand money from this perspective, as a product, you understand a lot of the phenomena that is happening in the world. So let me explain one by one. Well, as much as I could in this video. So, who's the factory of the money? Factory of the money are central banks. Central banks have a monopoly on printing money, and that monopoly is protected by bullets and tanks and guns. So unless you conquer a country, you cannot print that country's money. Although there are exceptions to that, like Hong Kong, where the country, the administration gives banks the ability to print money, but ultimately it's controlled by the government. Okay? So, because central banks are the factory, whoever is the closest to central bank get the money, because again, think of it as a product, at the cheapest price. So who is closest to central banks? Well, the big national banks and investment houses, insurance companies. So they have the cheapest access to money. And what is the price of money? The price of money is the interest rate, right? So as you think about it, you as a consumer, you are the furthest way from the factory. You are the buyer, right? If the factory is central bank, you're the consumer, then the middleman are the banks, the investment houses, and even the regional banks. And as all distribution chains, there are levels. The closest to the source are the most powerful, and they have the most buying power. So you can imagine your local bank cannot get the same rate as, let's say, Bank of America or Wells Fargo, right? It's simple because they cannot buy as much money as the central bank can produce, and central bank can produce limitless amount of money. So they had to pay a higher price. And then when you borrow, you as a normal consumer, hello. Oh, thank you. Sorry for interruption. So you as a consumer, unless you're a huge company or you're a very rich person, you cannot get access by borrowing directly from the commercial division of Wells Fargo or Bank of America. You have to borrow from the local banks or local branches. So your price is going to be the highest. Does that make sense? Okay. So you understand this whole food chain of money from central bank all the way to the larger banks, then down to the smaller banks, and down to you. Then let's talk about some of the phenomena that's happening today. Okay, but before that, let me eat my delicious hot pastry. Pause. Okay, I'm back. So once you understand money is a product, and you can start thinking about money from a product perspective, you start to understand a whole range of things that's happening economically and financially in the market. And that's the foundation, basically, for understanding and taking control of your financial life, right? Okay, so with that goal in mind, I'm going to analyze 3 situations and see how this, by looking at money through a product perspective, can help you understand and make sense of it all, and maybe help you structure your life better. Well, the first thing is, what happens when a factory, any factory, produces too much of a product? Well, when the factory produces too much, naturally the price goes down, right? Because there's too much, the market's flooded with a certain product. This is the reason why factory never overproduce. They set a specific production target, because sure, the factory can always produce more, but is it in their benefit? Is it in their interest to produce unlimited amount? It's not. You need to have a certain scarcity, and that's essentially how central banks manage money. There's a term called money supply, and you can look up terms like M1 and M2, so forth. But essentially, money supply is how the government, how the central bank manage money supply, so that there's not too much of money. And what happens when there's too much money? You get inflation. Well, first you get devaluation, meaning that anything is too much of anything is worth less, right? So then, when something's worth less, Actually, the opposite happens. It means it costs you more money to exchange it for any product out there, because the value of the money is decreasing. So you need more of it to buy this. Let's take an example, Apple. When the government is printing $1 million a day, one apple may be worth $1, right? But when a government is printing $10 million a day, then that now you need $10 to buy the apple, because the money is worth 1/10. You take inflation and how it happens. So how it relates to today is that the government around the world are printing lots of money, and that is causing inflation. Or you say, well, it's not. I don't see any really real inflation yet. Actually, you do. If you look at the price of education, the price of stock, the price of real estate, it's happening. It's happening right in front of your eyes. All these prices are being inflated because of government's printing of money. I'm not the first one to tell you this. If you do any financial research, you'll see that it has not reflected in the actual goods that you buy as much as, but it's not much. But it will, because what happens when the real estate price inflated? Everything goes up, right? Because where do you buy your stuff? In a store. Where do you transact in a physical space? So as the price of those things goes up, so will that price trickle down eventually to the things that you buy. Okay. So the second thing that we're going to understand is borrowing money. Right? Borrowing money is basically kind of like buying a product. You're thinking money is a product. So what happens, right? When you're a consumer, you're the furthest away from factory, and you're further away from factory. It's simply because you have no buying power, right? Who buys from factories? Big distributors. Why? Because factory cannot sell single units to a regular consumer. Well, some factories now can, but most factories aren't set up that way. So you as a consumer, you are further away from factory. You pay the highest price for money, meaning you pay the highest interest rate for money. Because remember, interest rate is the price of money, right? And because you're further from the factory, even though there's an unlimited amount of it, you have the hardest access to it. As you move up the food chain, you move up to the regional banks, they can get access to money at a better price than you can, right? Because they are up the food chain. And then above them, you have the national banks, you have the regional banks, and they get bigger and bigger. And as they grow in size, their cost of money get lower and lower because they're getting closer to the factory, because they can buy more of the money from the central bank, and they pay a lower interest rate. And this is the reason why banks naturally will get bigger. If they're successful, or if they're smart, the management is smart, they will naturally grow and become big, because it's in their interest to become big. Because they get bigger, the cost of money goes down for them, right? And in bank, the product that banks sell is basically money, and the price they charge for that product is interest rate. All right, so you understand that? You understand the cost of borrowing. And let's say, so above you, who's above you, right? Who is the next layer above you, closer to the central bank? It's actually not local bank. It's actually companies, your mom and pop stores. The same as with banks, as mom and pop stores get more and more successful, they require more and more money, right? Because they are successful, they sell more product, they get more money. And as they sell more product, they require more money to transact, to exchange for that product. That means they have bigger buying power for money. So you see that big companies like Fortune 500 companies like Google or Tesla, so they don't need to go to local banks. Why? Because they can buy more money than the local banks can. So where do they go? They go to the national bank to borrow money, to issue bonds. Or if they really get really big, they can go public and basically raise the money through the financial market, through the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, which is another distributor of money for the central government. All right, so that's number two. The final thing has to do with your income. I put this last, but I want you to watch the video all the way to the end. So, how do you increase your income? Well, if money is a product and you want more of it, then you have to stop being a consumer, a buyer of product. You have to change your role to the seller of the product. And this is the reason why people sit above you, always closer to the central bank, always have more money than you do. If you run a successful company, you'll be richer than you are a consumer of money. Okay? Because now you're a distributor of money. You go a level up, let's say you get even closer, you start working with the banks, you make more money. And this is the reason why people on Wall Street make so much money, because they are the closest. Well, basically they are the closest to the central bank. So they always get money at a better price than you do. So they can turn around and sell it to you because you are the consumer. You understand? So if you want to increase your income in life, you have to change your role from a consumer of the product called money into a distributor. And if you're smart and lucky enough, you can raise some army, conquer a country, and become your own, and set up your own factory to distribute, to make money. And you laugh, but actually there are plenty of people that have done this. They're called kings and queens. As kings and queens, essentially what they did is they organized enough people to conquer a country, and then just to set up their own factory to print their own money, right? You have the King of England, you have all the throughout Middle Ages, you have every country was under a king and queenship, right? And even today, you look at Kingdom Brunei, you look at Saudi Arabia, these are families who control whole country's money printing factory. They are way more wealthy than Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Tesla's, Elon Musk, or Amazon, because unlike these businessmen who have limited supply access to money, these kings and queens can print as much money as they want anytime they want. So for them, money is never an issue, and they are way more wealthy. It's just not according to the Forbes list. But there you go. That is my video for today. See you next time. Bye bye.